Hi again. This is a continuing video from lesson 4 where I created a macro that put a box around a shape. Basically, I'm just going to show you now how we can put a margin for that box. So we're going to let's put demarge. I always put like that way it'll symbolize that it's a double value. This is a variable. Okay, and let's say our margin, I can hit Control J and watch, demarge will be as a property. So I can hit Tab to select it, and let's set it to, let's say, 1/4 inch. And some people might want to use millimeters. If you're using inch, you don't have to specify, but you could do something like this: active document.unit. It equals, and you'll see this pops up here. If you want to use millimeter, you will have to specify millimeter. We're using inch, so we don't actually have to specify it because it is the default value. All we have to do now to create our margin is calculate in our head these values. We're creating a rectangle. X and Y is the bottom left corner, and then width, distance over from that, height up. So for X, what are we going to do? We'll go X minus demarge. And you notice I don't capitalize it as soon as I hit right here. VBA capitalizes it for me. Okay, and then we'll go Y. Guess what we're going to put? Y minus demarge. Okay. Now width, what are we going to do for width? So we're going to go width plus demarge times 2. And you remember back in math, your order of operations, we don't have to use brackets here because multiplication will come first. Oops, what did I do? But some people might like to, just to know. So we're going, if we have a rectangle, we're going across, because we started our rectangle 0.25 to the left. So that's why we have to do demarge times 2. One demarge just to get back to the rectangle, and then all the way across, and then another demarge. We'll run through it slowly so you can see that. And for height, we're going to do the same thing. Control C, Control V. Okay, let's move this to the side and we'll watch it in action. Get off put up the pick tool. Okay, and we'll step through it. We just passed demarge, so as soon as we pass it, it appears in our locals window. Demarge 0.25, and you could actually change this in your locals window. I could change that to 0.3, and as it runs the macro, it will change that value. And you notice X hasn't been set, or doesn't have a value. Watch this. F8. As soon as we pass this get bounding box in our locals window, X is this position here, XY, and then height is the distance high, so it's a 4-inch circle, and width 4 inches this way. Now we can explain what we did here. So we'll set, there we go with our margin. So X minus demarge, so our X here, and then we go minus 0.3 or 0.25, and Y, same thing. And then we got width, demarge times 2. Since we started back here, we got to go 1 demarge, and then the width, and then another demarge. Same thing with the height. And that puts a box around the shape. We'll continue running it, put it to back. And that's our margins. And we also showed you how to set your unit. So if you put millimeter here, don't forget to put millimeter value here.